From Hamilton Place Strategies in Washington, D.C., this is the HPS Insights podcast.
HPS has returned back to the office in the past couple of weeks, just about 2 years after the start of the COVID-19 pandemic in March 2020. And related to that, we had the opportunity to interview for HPS Insights one of our clients and someone who's been working a lot on this issue of return to work, Mark Slaga, the global practice lead for digital workplace services at Kyndryl. Mark and I had a great conversation on this topic that's on the minds of business leaders everywhere. With COVID-19 finally reaching the endemic phase, what is going to be the new normal of how we work and how will businesses adapt to it? These are two really timely questions right now as we pass this 2-year anniversary of the COVID lockdowns. Mark, I think, was the perfect guest for this occasion. Mark and Kyndryl have been guiding companies through the transition to remote and then hybrid work since day one of the pandemic. My favorite part of our conversation was listening to Mark talk about the importance of workplace flexibility for businesses looking to attract and retain talent. Employee expectations are higher than ever, and to keep them around, organizations need to give them the tools to succeed, regardless of whether they end up working from home or the office. Mark even frames this imperative as a question of inclusivity. Every employee, no matter their location or life circumstances, deserves the same opportunity to excel at work. It was a really great conversation at a really interesting time in the business world. So without further ado, I hope you all enjoy this. Here's my conversation with Mark Slaga of Kyndryl. Welcome to another edition of HPS Insights. I'm your host, Bryan DeAngelis. I'm a partner here at Hamilton Place Strategies, and I'm excited today to have another one of our clients joining us for a great conversation centered around the 2-year anniversary of COVID. But I'm joined today by Mark Slaga of Kyndryl. Mark is Kyndryl's global practice lead for digital workplace services. Mark, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, Bryan, thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Start us off first. I think some of my audience will be familiar with Kyndryl and would have seen the news last fall of your spin out of IBM. But let's start, maybe just take a moment, tell us a little bit about what Kyndryl is and the work you all do.
Yeah, thanks, Bryan. So Kyndryl may not be a household name yet, but obviously we want it to be a great household name. But we're basically the largest independent provider of IT infrastructure services in the world. Now, you're going, okay, I don't know your name. How can you be the biggest? The reason is what you said is just this past year, we spun out of IBM. So we were under the name of IBM now. Now we're a completely separate company, publicly traded, completely separate. The cool part is with us, we brought 90,000 skilled employees. We brought a client base that we've had work with, and and a portfolio of over 3,000 patents. So that's kind of why I feel good about being what we say we're the largest out there.
Well, many of my listeners know that I'm here in DC recording this, but I am a Virginia suburbanite, and it's kind of exciting. This is our first all Springfield, Virginia podcast. You grew up there. Tell me a little bit about your background and how you got, I guess, first to IBM, but then what you're doing now at Kyndryl.
Well, it all started in Springfield, like you said. So I grew up, I went to West Springfield High School, Bryan. So we grew up near each other. Yes. Went to University of Virginia Tech. Just up there in that area. I now live in the Raleigh, North Carolina area, but prior to Kyndryl, I was worked at Dimension Data, worked up into the CEO of Dimension Data for many years, and then joined IBM. Now with the spinoff with Kyndryl, I'm responsible for what we call the digital workplace services business. And this is all about helping our customers help their employees be able to work from anywhere to do the jobs they need to do. So it's a really cool job, and it became really important over the last few years.
So about 2 years ago, COVID just revolutionized the way we live and work. the lockdowns began, millions of workers worldwide began working remotely. I remember this quite vividly at HPS. We were a week or so ahead of our clients, and it was a scramble to get up and running first by ourselves and then start working as a team and then start working with our clients in a very collaborative fashion. And I think now, and I remember thinking then, this is 70 people. Imagine if you're a global company. Imagine if you're working in multiple time zones, or you're a Microsoft, you're an Amazon, you're a General Electric. Like, these are big challenges, but you all were kind of at the forefront of helping millions of employees and employers navigate that shift. Can you tell us a little bit about what were some of those main workplace challenges at the start of COVID that a lot of organizations faced, and how they handled it?
Yeah, what you touched on are kind of the main phases of what everybody, regardless of size, they had to go through these things. The mad dash at the beginning is, how do we get people who are used to working in the office? How do we just get them the basics, be able to work from home and be productive? And it's kind of like, at first it was like, just get them to be able to work from individuals. So with a lot of that, it was, some was just procuring devices quickly so they could work from home, whether it be laptops or new. So some of it was just getting equipment and software to them. Some was getting the security wrapped around that they could do it remotely. And that was really kind of the first phase. The next is how to really begin to work. When they were in the office, they could work together on things a lot easier. So now, how do you provide them the ability to collaborate with their teammates, even though they're both in different locations? And so that was enabling things like collaboration technologies and things like that. And then that extended, not just how do you work internally, is obviously we all have customers and every company has customers. So not only how do you collaborate internally, how do you now kind of make it that hybrid workplace a team sport again fully? So not just work internally, but work with the customers. Those are kind of the major phases of going through. And that's what they've been through in the past.
Yeah. And a big part of that too, I imagine, is the culture. Again, just thinking of us, we recruit on college campuses, and we bring in, upwards of 20 new associates to the firm every June, and they had to onboard during a pandemic and remotely. And Kyndryl had to spin out of IBM remotely. Talk us a little bit about that last point.
Yeah, this as Kyndryl spun out of IBM, it was right in the middle of COVID. So taking 90,000 employees spread across the globe and being able not only to spin out and work as individuals, but here is where we're getting to next is, how is this hybrid workplace impacting the culture of the company? And we had to do this in the middle of COVID. And so it really, it allows us, since this is something we do to help our customers, it's something that allowed us to do it as well.
Let's shift there to, I guess, the present tense. So right now, employers across the country are grappling with returning to the office, adopting long-term hybrid work. We are back as of last week here at HPS, but still we've got colleagues in other parts of the country now. We've got some pretty normal, I think, flexibility in terms of someday we'll have folks remote, someday we won't. We're doing this podcast via Zoom remotely, right? This is the new normal. So, a lot of workers didn't just go home to their apartments. Many moved to these new locations. And what I'd like to know is kind of, what should businesses be thinking about as they make the choice to come back, and what is going to be their new sort of setup and culture?
Yeah, I think the first is that businesses, and I think they most understand this is not an all or nothing decision of everybody in the office or everybody out. We're not going to go back to 100% either way, a complete binary decision. Even if we choose one model that's a mix temporarily, look, things change. And it's not always just a COVID or something related. We got to be flexible. So I think that's the one thing to first be thinking about. It's not going to all go back to normal. Next thing is, a lot of workers really enjoy this flexibility. And for some, it's work-life balance. For some others, it's, they're working more, but they like the flexibility afforded by, being able to work from home sometimes. I think that is, being able to provide that is important. And I think the other thing, thinking about, you touched on this earlier, but the culture of a company that's a mix of people working from home and in the office, it's a really kind of a new kind of inclusivity, right? In the new hybrid world, as employers, we got to provide an equitable experience for all workers, regardless of where they're working, right? It's about providing equal ability to impact the culture and the company, regardless whether in the office. And the last thing to think about is just, some good news in this is, look, there is benefits that comes from this for both environmental sustainability. Just the commuting less, just even that, can help reduce emissions. So there's some benefit, tucked inside this.
Yeah, I avoided 395 for 2 years, and not only the environmental impact, but I think the lack of stress on my mental health of sitting in that traffic that I'm sure you remember was very helpful for me personally.
I remember when I think I'm on a bad traffic day here in Raleigh, I think back to 395, and I just, I said, be thankful.
That's right. You touched on something a second ago that I think is important, that work-life balance, the preserving the culture, but recognizing, people are in different life situations. I'm guilty as charged of loving the flexibility to get home and coach my kids' little league team, or not to make too many jokes about traffic, but coming in, doing my first meeting maybe of the day via Zoom, and then coming in after that traffic's disappeared. What do you think are some of the changes that COVID's brought about that are here to stay? And maybe I'll ask a two-part question. What do you think's here to stay? What do you think will fade away if, knock on wood, COVID really is moving into the rearview mirror?
Yeah, first, this whole remote and hybrid, it's no longer kind of a stopgap. So, it's part of the new normal. Whether it depends on what end of the spectrum you are, whether you consider that a stay or fade, right?
Right.
But second is, the bar, I call it the bar has been raised for what we need to do to equip employees, and it will stay high. So talk about stay. We had to raise our game as employers, and we're helping our customers raise their game to help the employees. That bar will not go down. I mean, it's, look, a lot of companies had to adapt quickly to provide the work environment for the employees to work. That will stay high. That's about how we equip users to work from anywhere. The second part that will stay high is when there are some working from anywhere, how we provide them support when they need help, that's going to stay high. And that is, as you work from home more, the kind of the view of what's the corporate life and the home consumer or home life kind of begins to meld in certain ways. So I think what sometimes we all experience in our personal life of calling in to get help for something, when you get that really good experience, that bar has raised for corporates when you're getting internal corporate like IT help. And so I think that's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool thing, but that's bringing together, this is where the buzzwords of cloud automation, tech, analytics, that kind of stuff come in. But really it's about how do you provide that higher level support for an employee when they need help. And so I think that's one of the things that is here. That bar, again, is stay. I talked about that inclusive, nature is going to stay. I like to describe it as we need to have the employee be able to have the same impact on the business, whether they're working from their dining room table or a conference room table. And the last thing it's going to fade, the stigma of, people when they, sometimes came with people working from home, I think that'll fade. That'll fade in most cases. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's great. You mentioned a lot of workers will continue to desire this flexibility, that stigma will fade. I agree with you. Do you see digital workplace technology impacting businesses' ability to attract new talent, but also retain their employees?
Absolutely. This is now the HR, human resources and, departments and, managers who are hiring managers for whatever part of the business are, really becoming asking about this. I talked about that bar being raised high. It's not just keeping people, it is attracting people. So it is the retain and the attract. There's an endless number of surveys that you've seen, and, it all kind of melts together is the expectations for people to be hybrid are there and going to stay. So it's interesting. We, as in a company, we often think about the questions we're going to ask the candidates when they come in.
Right.
We got to think different. It's, we need to think about the questions we're going to get asked as an employer for somebody checking us, to see if they want to come on board. Like, what technology or what support are we providing so they can do their job from anywhere? And so, the big picture is, how do we help employees going from just surviving working in these new ways to how do we help them thrive? Because that's what they're going to ask us. How have you set up the environment? And it's the technology, but it's also culture to help them thrive. And that's what the CEOs, I think that's now the CEOs are starting to ask. I hear it regularly of what is this hybrid work environment doing to our company culture? And that's where this all comes together, is how do you make this hybrid environment that can advance a company's culture? And that's everything we talked about, being able to work from home, but collaboration, things to be able to collaborate, to equally participate. I think that's where, a lot of, ability to be able to attract and retain talent, answering those questions is important.
Yeah, we'll come full circle here, but that's a lot of the work Kyndryl does, and especially your business unit. So maybe my final question here, what do you think will be the greatest impact Kyndryl has on its customers who are navigating everything we've talked about on this episode, the challenges of the digital workplace and remote work, and now this migration to a hybrid work model?
Yeah, I think we're in a good position as Kyndryl. And I think the team, the digital workplace practice that I work on, I think first we start with, we call our mission. Our mission is keep it simple, our mission is to make it easy for our customers' employees to accomplish their mission, right? So What do we need to do? We all want to ground it in that, in really that mission. And so in that, creating that environment where they can work from anywhere, they can participate in the company, they can interact with their customers, they can equally participate in the company culture. That's a big part of it. And the second is, and this is more specific to the digital workplace as well, but also when they do need help, how do we do that in this modern way that gives them that kind of stellar, I call it consumer type support, but it's that good consumer type support that you think of when somebody says great support. So I think, that's been, we've had I'll say the absolute privilege to help a lot of companies through this, from, large grocery retailers with like 70,000 employees to Social Security administrations and, country in Europe, people that needed to provide support to their customers during this time, and we were able to help them. And then also doing it, we've had to do it for ourselves, which has been great. So I feel, we as Kyndryl, we are very well positioned to help, both in understanding how the culture changed and setting up the technology to make it that companies can, accomplish their mission. It's
an amazing story when you take a step back and think that Kyndryl is about 5 months old here and doing all that work and being such a great asset to its customers. It's really fascinating. Well, Mark, thank you for joining us. This was a great conversation. I really appreciate the opportunity to learn a little bit more about what you all are doing. And as we head into what I hope is this next chapter where COVID is behind us, what's going to stick around and what have we learned through these past 2 years. So thank you for joining. I appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, Bryan.
And thanks, as always, to our listeners for tuning in to another episode of HPS Insights. We'll include some more information about Mark and his team's work over at Kyndryl in our show notes. As always, please like and subscribe and follow us either at hamiltonplacestrategies.com or on Twitter at HPS Insights. I'm your host, Bryan DeAngelis. I hope everyone has a great week.
Thank you for listening to the HPS Insights podcast, produced by Hamilton Place Strategies. For the latest updates, follow us on Twitter at HPS Insights and follow us on the web at hamiltonplacestrategies.com.